Argus Mythic Guide, for Dummies. Phase 1. Gaze is cast 3 times in this phase. For the first 2, only melee needs to pre-spread 5 yards, and ranged spreads on 3rd and beyond. Before each cast always look at the ring WeakAura and make sure it's green and not red, since you have only 0.7 seconds before the debuff is active. To maximize your buff uptime, it's important to understand the ability timings and how the buff itself works. Targets of the gift buffs will be picked first, and 5 seconds later they will spawn the balls left and right from the raid stack. Once they spawn they aren't active and you cannot get the buff for 3 more seconds. 10 seconds after, they will despawn. If you don't lose DPS by moving, on pull it's best to pick up the buff you don't want first, and get your buff few seconds before the first cone hits. It's risky to pick up the buff when you are dodging the cone as it despawns 1 second after cone starts casting, so you can miss it if you're not quick. On the second cone the orb buff will spawn a few seconds before the cone starts, but it won't be active until after the cone is cast, so stay behind the boss. If you have to drop the gift, make sure you move back to boss ass right away to bait it. Everyone has enough time to get the buff after dodging the cone, and picking it up later will give you more room to get the 3rd stack. The 3rd buff target will be picked just before the cone is cast. If you get this, you need to stay stacked with the raid, and dodge the cone on the side where your buff needs to be dropped. After dodging the cone, everyone has 4 seconds to pick up the buff, and spread for the 3rd gaze. If you can't make it, there is enough time to get the buff after gazes go out. The 4th buff is after the 4th cone, and does not overlap with anything. The first Blight Orb will spawn before the 2nd cone. These are always dropped on the left side. First 2 debuffs have time to drop the death fog in the back, and then get back in the boss ass to bait the cone. 3rd needs to wait until it's 3 seconds left before expiration, and then run along the edge of the previous cone, to bait the next cone. As soon as the cast starts, make a turn to the left side to dodge the cone. 4th will expire during the cone cast, and also needs to bait out the cone. Start running from the middle to the sides, after the cast starts, to survive the cone. Speed increase is used here to help these players get out on time since they are further away from the boss. During the 3rd cone, the 1st and 2nd blights need to bait out and stay in line with raid when dropping the death fog, but cannot go too far in the back. These should be dropped on the right side as there is more room since the 2nd cone is moved a bit to the left to conserve space. 3rd and 4th can drop their blight either way, depending on what orb buff they need to pick up after, as they will expire after the cone. For each cone of death, you need to be directly behind the boss, in the ass, until the cast starts. Never start running before he picks a target and starts casting, because you can bait the cone ahead of other people who were waiting to run on time. Since you are close to the origin point of the cone, the distance you need to travel to be safe is very small, but you should always move just a bit more, in case the cone wasn't directly to the middle. If the boss is not pushed on time, and a 5th cone is cast, make sure you dodge it to the left. Raged players are usually on the right side and they need to be alone there, since the middle circle will be split in half when the storm comes. See you in Phase 2.